Kickoff of the 2025 college football season is just around the corner. These are three big questions for the Texas Longhorns entering the 2025 season. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. This segment brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/SECU to get $150 in bonus bets today. It was a hell of a season in Austin last year. Texas made it to the Final Four. They were the only team to do so back-to-back years, but there's a hunger for more. Winning a national championship, for starters, is where Texas wants to go next under Steve Sarkisian. These are three big questions I've got for the Texas Longhorns entering the 2025 college football season, guys. Let's start with number one and the most obvious and the lowest hanging fruit. The Quinn Ewers era in Austin is over. The Arch Manning era has begun. And my first big question is, simply put, can Arch Manning live up to the hype? I mean, that's got to be, the biggest questions for Texas going in. There's others we'll talk about. There's plenty of other things we'll discuss when it comes to Texas going in the 2025 season. But it really starts with Arch Manning. It's finally time for Arch Manning to take over as QB1 and be that dude in Austin. I mean, guys, there were Texas fans and people that weren't Texas fans last year that felt like the best quarterback on the roster wasn't starting. And it's really, I don't know that it's a knock against Quinn Ewers. It's more of a, that's how highly people think of Arch Manning. The hype's going to be insane. The hype's going to be crazy. Listen, I'm not saying he's the same player as Nico Iamaleava, but it kind of reminds me of the hype around that kid where it was like, hey, can Nico win the Heisman as a freshman? Can he win the Heisman his first year starting? Like, can he throw this many touchdowns, have this many rushing yards, do this, be this? And it's like, we forget sometimes playing quarterback in this league on a week-in, week-out basis is difficult. There are challenges. It's going to be different. Now, listen, I'm high on Arch Manning. I think Arch Manning, when it's all said and done, when the dust settles and we're doing our postseason quarterback rankings, I think Arch Manning can be a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the league. Maybe he can be top 2 or 3. He has the potential and the talent to be number one. That said, it's a lot of pressure to put on a kid. And the thing that I will say, though, makes me feel confident about Arch when it comes to that. The kid's last name is Manning. Like, I don't think he's going to have any pressure on him necessarily that he hasn't had to this point in life. Like, when your last name is Manning, there's a pressure to live up to that last name, to live up to that football legacy that your family has. But again, playing quarterback in this league on a week-in, week-out basis, obviously he's going to start week 1 against Ohio State, so we're going to find out very, very quickly how comfortable he is. Also a dual threat guy. How does Steve Sarkisian know that? Typically, Sark's not a big, dual threat quarterback guy, but we saw it last year, right? In those goal line packages and those packages where Arch comes in and he had that big rushing touchdown against Texas A&M, and he was very good at times. He had the 4-game set or so where he started, and he's got the big arm. He'll take the shots downfield, which I know Texas fans are going to be really excited about. But it's almost like there's layers of pressure to Texas in 2025, where there's pressure to win. It's Texas. Welcome to Texas. There's pressure to get back to the playoff and get to the national title and win a national championship. There's also pressure for Arch Manning to look good while doing it. And so I'm fascinated by Arch Manning. I'm fascinated by, I think the kid's football IQ is great. He's got a big arm. He can run the football. His body, his build. I mean, he's got everything. He's got everything. Is he able to live up to that, or do we see in 2025, you know what, this is a reminder, it is pretty tough to play quarterback in the SEC and be as good as people expect him to be on a week-in, week-out basis. All the conversation, and deservedly so and understandably so, is going to be around Arch Manning. Is he the upgrade? That's another thing, too. Kind of a question within a question. Is Arch Manning going to be the upgrade from Quinn Ewers that people think he's going to be? Or are we sitting there at the halfway point? Maybe Texas is still having a good year, obviously, but people are sitting there saying, you know what? We didn't appreciate Quinn Ewers enough. Going to be very interesting to see. Guys, my second big question for Texas football entering the 2025 season. Will the Horns reload on the line of scrimmage? Now, listen, what Steve Sarkisian's built there in Austin, really impressive. I think when he got to campus, they were so bad on the offensive line. They were bad on the line of scrimmage. I think he immediately identified this has to change. I mean, think about it. Sark's been around the SEC. He's been at Alabama. He knows what it looks like. He knows what you have to look like in the trenches to have a chance in this league and have a chance to win a national title. And he flipped that, and give him credit. They lose a lot, guys. Texas is going to have 4 brand new starting offensive linemen. You're losing an All-American in Kelvin Banks. Defensive line, you got to reload there as well, which, again, I think they will be able to reload. But here's the thing. As talented as I think Texas is, and by the way, spoiler, I think Texas should be the favorite going in the 2025 season in the SEC. I think they absolutely should. But when you've got that much movement on both lines of scrimmage, it's something that you have to deem as noteworthy. It's something that we have to pay attention to. There's a lot of moving pieces there, a lot of fresh faces, a lot of guys that are going to be asked to step into roles and contribute and be big-time contributors immediately. Can they reload on the line of scrimmage, or are there growing pains there? And if there's growing pains on the line of scrimmage in the SEC, guys, that's how you take a loss or two. And that's how all of a sudden you put yourself behind the 8 ball when it comes to not just the SEC championship, but the college football playoff as well. So Texas, line of scrimmage, reloading. Can they do so effectively and not miss a beat going in 2025? And, guys, my third and final big question for Texas, simply this. Is this the team to get Texas back to a national championship? Back-to-back years now, you've been in the Final Four. That's the only program that can say that. I don't think we even have to ask the question anymore, is Texas back? Texas is back. In regards to being like a factor in the national picture, in the national landscape of college football, Texas is all the way back. But are they back to competing for a national championship? Winning a national championship, I should say. That's the big question. Is Arch Manning the guy? Are some of these new contributors they've added at wide receiver, some of these new dudes are going to step in? Some of these new guys that will emerge on defense. Is this the team to get Texas to the promised land? Is this the squad that's going to do it? 2005 feels like a long time ago. We're coming up on the 20-year anniversary of Vince Young and that national title. Is this the team to get it done? Because that's the expectation of Texas, right? I mean, you want to win the SEC, sure. But getting to the playoff, just getting there is not enough. I think after back-to-back years in the Final Four, the next step, getting to the Natty. Getting in the national title game, having a shot to win it. Is this the group? Because that's what Texas is going to be measured up against all season. That's why I said there's different layers of pressure on Texas. There's a pressure on Arch Manning because when we're sitting there week 6 or 7 and the Horns are 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, whatever, like they could be undefeated, but it's not really even going to be about that. It's going to be about, is this team playing well enough? Does it have the makings to win it all? That's the measuring stick. That's what you're going to be measured up against. Is this the team to get back to the national championship and win it all? Because that's the standard, that's the expectation, and that's the next step for Steve Sarkisian's Texas program. So again, guys, my 3 big questions for Texas football entering the 2025 season. Number 1, can Arch Manning live up to the hype? Number 2, will the Horns reload on the line of scrimmage? And number 3, is this the team to get Texas back to a national championship? Guys, we'd love to hear from you. Do you agree? Do you disagree with mine? What are your 3 big questions for Texas football entering the 2025 season? Guys, before we get out of here, I do want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel because, of course, we're brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and up and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and up and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org. In Maryland, Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY in New York. Guys, once again, the 2025 college football season will be here before you know it. The Texas Longhorns trying to get back to the Final Four and even more. What are your 3 big questions for Texas? Do you agree with mine? Do you disagree? Would love to hear yours. Guys, that's going to do all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. Until next time, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side.